Mountain Home Air Force Base is a United States Air Force installation located in southwestern Idaho, United States. The base is in Elmore County, 12 miles southwest of the city of Mountain Home, which is 40 miles southeast of Boise, via Interstate 84. The host unit at Mountain Home since 1972 has been the 366th Fighter Wing of the Air Combat Command, nicknamed the Gunfighters. The base's primary mission is to provide combat airpower and combat support capabilities to respond to and sustain worldwide contingency operations. Part of the base is a census-designated place. The population was 3,238 at the 2010 census. Units. Mountain Home AFB is the home of the 366th Fighter Wing, which reports to Air Combat Command. The mission of the 366 FW is to prepare airmen and their families, professionally and personally, for expeditionary operations and foster an environment that promotes integration of all facets of wing operations. The wing comprises 4 groups and 3 operational fighter squadrons: 366th Operations Group, 389th Fighter Squadron, 391st Fighter Squadron, 428th Fighter Squadron, 366th Maintenance Group, 366th Mission Support Group, 366th Medical Group. In addition, the 726th Air Control Squadron gives an air picture to the aircraft as they train. An active Idaho Air National Guard unit, the 266th Range Squadron, controls and maintains armitter sites within the 7,412 square miles operational training range located in southern Idaho. History. World War II. Crews started building the base in November 1942 and the new field officially opened on the 7th of August 1943. Shortly thereafter, airmen at the field began training U.S. Army Air Forces crews for World War II. The 396th Bombardment Group was the first unit assigned and its planned mission was to train crews for the B-17 Flying Fortress. However, before the first B-17s arrived, plans for the field changed and the 396th was transferred to Moses Lake AAF, Washington. Instead of training B-17 crews, Mountain Home Airmen began training crews for the B-24 Liberator. The first group did so was the 470th Bombardment Group, which trained at Mountain Home from May 1943 until January 1944, when the unit moved to Tonopah AAF, Nevada. The 490th Bombardment Group replaced the 470th and trained B-24 crews until it deployed to RAF-I, England in April 1944. The 494th Bombardment Group then replaced the 490th, once more training Liberator crews. Senator George McGovern was a pilot in the USAAF and did his second stage of B-24 training here. McGovern served 24 years in both houses of Congress from South Dakota, and was the Democratic nominee in the presidential election of 1972. The base also received fighter aircraft to add realism to its training. A few P-38 Lightning and P-63 King Cobra pursuit planes arrived in January 1945 to simulate attacks on B-24s. In June 1945, Mountain Home also briefly served as a training base for the new B-29 Superfortress, with the 301st Bombardment Group training for combat. But the Japanese surrender in August brought a swift end to the new mission and, for a time, to the base at Mountain Home. The base was placed in inactive status in October 1945. Post-war era, the base remained inactive for over 3 years, until December 1948, when the newly independent U.S. Air Force reopened the base. The 4,205th Air Base Group was activated on the 12th of December to prepare the newly redesignated Mountain Home Air Force Base for operational use. 5th Strategic Reconnaissance Wing. Mountain Home's first operational USAF unit was the Strategic Air Command 5th Strategic Reconnaissance Group, which was reassigned from Clark Field, in the Philippines, being assigned on the 26th of May 1949. The mission of the 5th Strategic Reconnaissance Group was long-range strategic reconnaissance, primarily of the periphery of the Soviet Union. Its primary operational squadron was the 72D Reconnaissance Squadron, which had been assigned to the group from LAD-AFB in Alaska Territory, where it had operated RB-29 Superfortress for several years near Fairbanks. On the 3rd of September 1949, aircraft of the 72D identified the first evidence of a successful explosion of a Soviet nuclear weapon in the Semipalatinsk test site in eastern Kazakh SSR on the 29th of August 1949. The pending assignment of the new RB-36 Peacemaker to the 5th SRW, along with the inadequacy of its World War II facilities to support the large aircraft, led SAC to move the 5th SRW to Fairfield Suisun AFB, California on the 9th of November 1949. The 4,209th Base Service Squadron was assigned to the base, which supervised construction activities to modernize facilities and also construct a 12,000-foot runway. The base was formally closed on the 25th of April 1950. However, the 5th SRW maintained control of Mountain Home from Fairfield Suisun, maintaining it as a sub-base. Military Air Transport Service. In early 1951, enough construction was completed that jurisdiction of Mountain Home was transferred to Military Air Transport Service, which assigned it to the Air Resupply and Communications Service. ARCS was Special Operations Organization, which performed psychological warfare missions. Mountain Home AFB was selected as a training base for ARCS, for which it was well suited due to the relative remoteness of the facility. ARCS formed the 580th, 581st, and 582nd Air Resupply and Communications Wings at the base, equipping with wings with C-119 Flying Boxcar, B-29 Superfortress, and ZAR-16 Albatross aircraft, and trained to support covert special operations. Once manned, equipped and trained, the groups deployed to various parts of the world, performing classified missions during the early part of the Cold War. 9th Bombardment Wing. In early May 1953, the major construction on the base was completed, and SAC was able to use its long runway for strategic bomber operations. Jurisdiction of Mountain Home AFB was transferred back to SAC on the 1st of May 1953. SAC moved its 9th Bombardment Wing to the base and began flying B-29 bombers and KB-29H refueling aircraft. The 9th converted to the new B-47 Stratojet bomber and a Boeing KC-97 Stratofreighter air refueling aircraft in September 1954, and kept alert bombers ready for war at a moment's notice, and continued its mission as a SAC deterrent force through the early Cold War years of the 1950s and early 1960s. In 1959, construction of 3 HGM-258I-9 missile sites began in the local area. The 569th Strategic Missile Squadron controlled these sites and was assigned to the 9th Bombardment Wing in August 1962. to prepare for the addition of missiles to its bomber forces. The USAF redesignated the wing as the 9th Strategic Aerospace Wing in April 1962. 2 years later, SAC's mission at MHAFB began to wind down as part of the phase-out of the B-47. In November 1964, the Air Force announced that the Titan I was also being phased out. In late 1965, SAC phased down operations at Mountain Home, and jurisdiction was transferred to Tactical Air Command for use. 67th Tactical Reconnaissance Wing. In November 1965, TAC began to activate elements of its new 67th Tactical Reconnaissance Wing at Mountain Home, formally activating the wing on 1 January 1966. The mission of the 67th TRW was to conduct photographic, visual, radar, and thermal reconnaissance operations. While having these operational commitments, it also conducted replacement training for RF-4C Phantom II crew members being deployed to Southeast Asia. In September 1966, the wing's 12th Tactical Reconnaissance Squadron transferred to the 460th Tactical Reconnaissance Wing at Tan Son Nhut Air Base, South Vietnam. As required, the 67 TRW also supported operations when crew members ferried RF-4Cs to the war theater. Beginning in 1968, the 67th also conducted tactical fighter operations with the addition of a squadron of F-4D Phantom IIs. This fighter mission lasted until late 1970 when the F-4Ds were reassigned. When U.S. forces began the drawdown from South Vietnam, the 67th TRW designation moved in July 1971 to Bergstrom AFB, Texas. 347th Tactical Fighter Wing. With the move of the RF-4Cs to Bergstrom, TAC activated its 347th Tactical Fighter Wing at Mountain Home, which has been phased down by PACAF at Yokotarab, Japan in May 1971. With the activation of the 347th, TAC chose it to be the first wing equipped with the new General Dynamics F-111A, an advanced version of the F-111A which had been unsuccessfully tested in the Vietnam War in Operation Combat Lance of 15 March to 22 April 1968. It differed from the F-111A in having more advanced electronics, more powerful engines, and major structural improvements. The first F-111F entered service with the 347th TFW in January 1972. The entire wing became operationally ready in October 1972. The 347th had a short stay at Mountain Home, conducting F-111F training until October, when the 366th DFW moved from Vietnam to Mountain Home. Upon its arrival, the 366th absorbed all the personnel and equipment of the 347th, which was inactivated. 366th Fighter Wing. The 366th Fighter Wing has been the host unit at Mountain Home for over 35 years. Following its return from the Vietnam War in late 1972, before the 366th Tactical Fighter Wing's arrival at Mountain Home, the 389th, 390th, and 391st Tactical Fighter Squadrons had returned from South Vietnam, joined the 347th, and began converting to F-111A aircraft. For the first time since it left for Vietnam, the wing once again had its 3 original flying units. During 1969, a Tenant unit began operating at the south end of the base, using part of the original SAC alert area, and about half of the Mole Hole alert facility, sharing the other half with an NCO leadership school from the main base. Det-1 320BW carried out an alert mission with 2 B-52 bombers and 2 KC-135 tankers. The unit disbanded in the spring of 1975 and returned to May. The AFB operations continued unchanged for several years. The wing tested its readiness in August 1976 when a border incident in Korea prompted the United States to augment its military contingent in South Korea as a show of force. The 366th deployed a squadron of 20 F-111 fighters, which reached Korea only 31 hours after receiving launch notification. Tensions eased shortly afterward and the detachment returned home. In early 1991, the Air Force announced that the 366th would become the Air Force's premier air intervention composite wing. The wing would grow with the addition of a squadron of EF-111A Raven electronic warfare aircraft and a squadron of B-1B Lancer bombers to become a dynamic 5-squadron wing with the ability to deploy rapidly and deliver integrated combat air power. The Air Intervention Composite Wing's rapid transition from concept to reality began in October 1991 when Air Force redesignated the wing as the 366th Wing. The wing's newly reactivated fighter squadrons became part of the Composite Wing in March 1992. The 389th Fighter Squadron began flying the dual-role F-16C Fighting Falcon, while the 391st Fighter Squadron was equipped with the new F-15E Strike Eagle. These two squadrons provide gunfighters round-the-clock precision strike capability. Following the terrorist attacks on the 11th of September 2001, the resultant initiation of Operation Enduring Freedom, the 366th Wing once again got the call, while the 34th Bomb Squadron deployed to Diego Garcia as the B-1 component of the 28th Air Expeditionary Wing. The wing sent a base operations support package to Al Udeid Air Base, Qatar, to transform the Bear Base into a fully functional airfield for large-scale combat operations. In October 2001, the 391st Fighter Squadron deployed to Al Jaber Air Base, Kuwait, while the 389th Fighter Squadron went to Al Udeid in November. Following the wing's return from Southwest Asia, the Air Force began consolidating its B-1 Lancer and KC-135 Stratotanker forces. This led to the reallocation of the wing's bombers and tankers. The 22 Argentine pesos aircraft began transferring to McConnell AFB, Kansas, in May 2002 and the squadron and activated the following August. The 34B SB-1Bs began moving to Ellsworth AFB, South Dakota, in June and the squadron officially moved in September. Following the departure of these assets, the Air Force redesignated the 366th as a fighter wing. With these changes, the wing's 10-year mission as the Air Force's only standing air expeditionary wing came to an end. A continued reconstruction of the 366th Fighter Wing was official with the 2005 base realignment, coinciding with the large-scale integration of the 150-plus F-22 Raptors. After the F-16 departure, Mountain Home Air Force Base was chosen to become an F-15E installation because of its ideal training terrain range that is suited for air-to-ground and air-to-air training missions. Over-the-horizon radar. About 1985, Air Force Materiel Command activated the 776th Radar Squadron at Bangor, NGB. The mission of the squadron was to operate two over-the-horizon radar Very Long-Range Early Warning Radar sites. The squadron operated an OTHB transmitter site at Christmas Valley, AFS, Oregon, 43.27917 degrees north, 120.37917 degrees west, 43.27917 minus 120.37917, and the receiver site at Tule Lake, AFS, California, 41.700 degrees north, 121.17778 degrees west, 41.700 minus 121.17778. These systems were activated in 1997, and the unit was activated. Thunderbirds crash. The base was the site of a Thunderbirds crash on the 14th of September 2003 in which no one was killed. Captain Chris Strickland, flying Thunderbird 6, serial number 870327, attempted a split-S maneuver immediately after takeoff based on an incorrect mean sea level elevation. Similar in desert appearance, MHAFB is 1,100 feet higher than the Thunderbird's home at Nellis AFB near Las Vegas, Nevada, climbing to only 1,670 feet above ground level instead of 2,500 feet. Strickland had insufficient altitude to complete the descending half-loop maneuver. He guided the F-160 aircraft down runway 30, away from the spectators, and ejected less than 1 second before impact. His parachute deployed when he was just above the ground, and Strickland survived with only minor injuries. No one on the ground was injured, but the $20 million aircraft was destroyed. Official procedure for demonstration split-S maneuvers was changed, and the USAF now requires Thunderbird pilots and airshow ground controllers to both work in above mean sea level altitudes, as opposed to ground control working in AGL and pilots in AMSL, which led to 2 sets of numbers that had to be reconciled by the pilot. Thunderbird pilots now also climb an extra 1,000 feet before performing the split-S maneuver. Previous names: Army Air Base, Mountain Home, November 1942. Mountain Home Army Airfield, the 2nd of December 1943. Mountain Home Air Force Base, the 13th of January 1948 present. Major commands to which assigned 2nd Air Force, the 29th of August 1942. 4th Air Force, the 15th of February 1945. Continental Air Forces, the 16th of April 1945. Temporary inactive status, the 5th of October 1945. Subbase of Fairfield Sweetwater AFB, California, c. the 1st of April 1950 to 24 January 1951. Military Air Transport Service, the 24th of January 1951. Activated on the 1st of February 1951. Strategic Air Command, the 1st of May 1953. Tactical Air Command, the 1st of January 1966. Air Combat Command, the 1st of June 1992 present. Major units assigned intercontinental ballistic missile facilities. The 569th Strategic Missile Squadron operated 3 HGM-258 Titan IICBM sites. 569 Air 12 miles SW of Hot Spring, Idaho, 42.67056 degrees north, 115.86722 degrees west, 42.67056, minus 115.86722, 569b, 7 miles Ivoriana, Idaho, 43.06611 degrees north, 116.26389 degrees west, 43.06611, minus 116.26389, 569c, 3 miles near Orchard, Idaho, 43.34500 degrees north, 115.99250 degrees west, 43.34500, minus 115.99250. The activation of the 569th SMS marked the last such activation of a Titan I squadron within Strategic Air Command. The 569th would join with 2 Titan I squadrons at Lowry AFB to be the last Titan I squadrons to undergo activation in June 1965. Today, all 3 of the squadron's launch sites are in remote areas, and temperatures in the areas tend to be extreme, ranging from over 100 degrees Fahrenheit during the summer to minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit in the winter. 569A is largely obliterated, with none of the 3 silos appearing to remain. It is owned and managed by U.S. Ecology. It is gated and locked. Site B is also largely obliterated and has been turned into a toxic waste dump site. Site C appears to be largely intact. Whomever owns it has erected several buildings on the site, with part of it being used as an auto graveyard. Geography. Mountain Home AFB is located at an elevation of 2,996 feet above sea level. It is in the western portion of the Snake River Plain, about 3 miles north of C.J. Strite Reservoir, an impoundment of the Snake River. According to the United States Census Bureau, the CDP has a total area of 9.9 square miles, and 0.10% is water. Demographics. As of the census of 2000, there were 8,894 people, 1,476 households, and 1,452 families residing in the CDP. The population density was 896 inhabitants per square mile. There were 1,590 housing units at an average density of 160 per square mile. The racial makeup of the CDP was 83.2% white, 6.9% black or African American, 0.8% Native American, 2.5% Asian, 0.2% Pacific Islander, 2.7% from other races, and 3.7% from 2 or more races. Hispanic or Latino of any race were 6.5% of the population. There were 1,476 households, out of which 76.4% had children under the age of 18 living with them. 91.9% were married couples living together. 4.4% had a female householder with no husband present, and 1.6% were non-families. 1.4% of all households were made up of individuals, and none had someone living alone who was 65 years of age or older. The average household size was 3.40 and the average family size was 3.43. In the CDP, the population was spread out with 24.0% under the age of 18, 24.4% from 18 to 24, 49.7% from 25 to 44, 1.8% from 45 to 64, and 0.1% who were 65 years of age or older. The median age was 25 years. For every 100 females there were 180.8 males. For every 100 females age 18 and over, there were 219.5 males. The median income for a household in the CDP was $31,634, and the median income for a family was $31,377. Males had a median income of $24,865 versus $20,664 for females. The per capita income for the CDP was $17,671. About 6.5% of families and 7.4% of the population were below the poverty line, including 9.1% of those under age 18 and none of those age 65 or over.